It's 2 steps.
There it is.
Hey, we are here on our Realtor channel to talk about considering the source of information. And this is something we see all the time. We see realtors post articles with clickbait headlines, quote articles with hyperbolic, crazy predictions, running around screaming that the sky is falling, quoting books that were written years ago. And we just want to say, stop for a minute, think about who you are and what you're doing. If you are the trusted advisor of your clients, you want to make sure that you're giving the best right advice, because when they're considering the source, they want that source always to be you.
Correct. And I feel like not only reading various sources of things and not getting, caught up in just the headlines, getting an idea of if it was really reputable, but also I think one of our best allies, Ruth, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think has been nationwide realtor groups.
Yes, absolutely.
And local realtor groups. So if you do not have a group of realtors outside of your office, it can be some office people, but we really suggest, you kind of increase it more.
Yeah, because again, considering the source, sometimes what's coming from that office actually has an agenda.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're rah-rah. I mean, let's be honest. Each office is going to have a decent amount of rah-rah out there. And so you want to see, you want to get the feel of other professionals. You want to see people who sell 2 houses a year, and you want to see people who sell 60 houses a year or more, and collaborate with them. So if you do not have something like that, get to know other realtors and start something yourself on a local level. But on a national level, get some of those larger Facebook groups out there, and you'll see a ton of content shared and a whole bunch of different views, ideas of how they see it. And you'll see people who might be on the West Coast or the East Coast or, Midwest or Texas or Florida or whatever. And they each have their own take of what they're seeing. And it really gives you, a bit more to go, okay, I'm seeing that.
Sometimes a little peek into the future. When we see what happens on the coastal markets, we usually see what's going to come here in a matter of months. We don't always know when. It's not always, with the same gusto. But generally, what happens on the coasts sort of is a little bit of a prediction of what's coming here to the Midwest. Another thing is, as you said, have both national and local. So your local market is always going to be your local market. And that's going to differ in various ways from what's going on across the country. So don't be quoting people in California without doing a little bit of a temperature check to see if that's actually what's happening in your local market.
Absolutely. And then additionally, as I've mentioned many times, if you have access to statistics, up-to-date statistics from InfoSparks, that's what we have. But there's others out there that can help you, kind of really see some of these numbers too.
Likely through your MLS of something that they partner with.
Correct. Because again, there's a lot of sources that we use. We have KCM and Keeping Current Matters. Sorry. And again, that's national statistics. So if I'm going on and on about how I'm an expert because Keeping Current Matters, while accurate and having their own data, I love them because they really have a lot of data points and graphics and stuff like that. But again, that's national. And that might be a trend you'll see, but it's not what's really happening. So going to InfoSparks or some other localized information and data provider is really what's going to get that last layer. You have the other agents, you have the national news, you have the local agents, and now you have the local information, data.
And it's your job to take all of that, put it in a blender, and interpret it for your clients so that they understand how it's going to affect them. It's up to us to sort of put flesh on the numbers, right? And make them personal, because when people are buying and selling homes, unless they're investors, and probably even unless they're investors of many multiple properties, they are moving for personal reasons. It's pretty rare that it's a financial move. It can happen, but think about how much the market really matters to them. I have heard of realtors telling people not to move right now. Well, there's a pretty good chance that we're heading for a recession. Everybody seems to think so. It seems to be something that's possibly going to hit pretty deeply, since it seems to be worldwide. It's got a lot of real true factors, mostly on the supply side, which is unusual. And there's probably some pain coming up in different areas and different things. We've talked about how most of the time real estate doesn't go down in a recession, but we also know about self-fulfilling prophecies and the fact that people are really scared right now. And what does, in our area, gas at $5.60 a gallon? Tim keeps saying it's not affecting the traffic. Well, it will. First couple of weeks of spending an extra couple $100 is, you can deal with that, but much longer, and people will not be able to. So some of those people will not be able to afford the house that they could. The interest rates going up, all of those things are going to have an impact on at least different sectors of the market, if not the market as a whole. We need to keep our heads, read the analysis. You don't have to do the analysis, but you do have to understand it and interpret that so that people understand, if I'm living in the wrong home now and things get worse, what is that going to do for my living situation?
And you're going to have people who have to weigh those things. There are some people who that's going to be extremely important to them, that their housing, their day-to-day housing, just like people, the prices of everything's going up, right? So do you not get, you're still going to get those eggs, you're still going to get that gallon of milk, but will you get that extra bag of chips or ding dongs or whatever? So people are going to, cars, people are holding on to cars more because of the increase in the cars. So there's certain things that people will say, I am in a position that this doesn't make sense. I don't need a new car, or my car's falling apart. I don't need to move. I can't stand where I'm living, or can't stay where I'm living, or can't afford where I'm living. So you have to help them navigate, bless you. You're going to have to help them navigate where their true needs and ability to take risks, in a sense, a risk, right? They're at a certain interest rate right now that's probably less than what the interest rates are if they buy a new house. But that change has to be something that they're willing to take.
And also, what is the greater risk? So maybe it's not going to be a fabulous financial move to go from their very low interest rate to a house that's got a high price and a higher interest rate. However, maybe they can't go up and down stairs anymore. So if they have to stay in this current house for 5 or 10 years, is that going to mean they're, sleeping on a couch because they can't get upstairs? Those are all things that need to be factored in. So the expense and the finance and all of that is one part of it. And then the whole rest of the story of the person or people involved is the other part of it.
Right. So they're basically going to have to go through a cost risk analysis. They're going to have to decide that this is their income, this is where everything's going, and how can they change their life, and what it's going to, what they're going to have to give up, because it might be a reality that people are going to have to give some things up for something else. So
yeah, and just like always, you may have a certain type of house in mind that you're looking for, and you have a budget that might be of your own making, but most likely has a lot to do with your lender. And those two, along with where you want to live, might not sync up. So you find that being farther from amenities is going to get you a lower price and a better house. But you're now farther from the things that you choose to do. So which is more important to you? There isn't a right answer to that.
correct.
Except you're going to have to choose one over the other. You're either going to get a yuckier house in a more desired area, or you're going to get a nicer house farther away from the things that you and everybody else choose to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I feel like that's my life.
Mine too.
So, but
and a big house far out, and I have a tiny house
right in the thick of things. But that's okay. We're both happy too. So it just is a matter of what you decide and then overcome.
Exactly.
Again, the risk cost analysis. So,
and I'm jealous of her house, and she's jealous of my location.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so just be that expert. Be the person who gives it to them straight, but also doesn't make them feel bad about whatever they end up having to do or wanting to do.
Yeah, and don't run around with your hair on fire.
Yes, exactly. So, all right, until next week.
See you next week.
All right, take care.